And now is the time where we start to become comfortable and we start to become present as we enter to our time of meditation. So I ask you now to just take a few deep breaths and just allow yourself to really feel what it's like to be in your body. Noticing all the sensations you feel at this moment. Maybe there's an itch, maybe there's a tingle, maybe just a feeling of just peace throughout your body. Whatever it is, just really allow yourself to feel that and to be with it. Now I ask you to think about a time in your childhood, a time where things felt really simple and maybe really peaceful. And I invite you to now just begin to become curious about that moment. What age were you then? What grade in school? What games did you like to play at that time? What did you look like? What was your favorite shirt? Who was your best friend? Just bring that child right into the room with you, right here and right now. Imagine surrounding your younger self in the energy of your curiosity. Perhaps even allowing that curiosity to deepen into empathy or even caring. Offering your child self all the good you would offer any small child who is left in your care. Extending this energy to yourself, just allowing yourself to just bask in that for a moment. Allowing yourself to love that small child that is you. What would you say to him or her? What gift might you extend to him or her? Maybe words of wisdom. Maybe words of love, of encouragement. allowing yourself to feel what it would be, how it would feel to receive these things. Now I invite you to embrace that younger version of yourself. Saying, I love you. Saying, you are worthy. And as we prepare to enter into our moment of silence, I invite you to just allow yourself to just remain in that embrace and to just feel the love, to feel the peace, to feel the worth, to know that I am. As we enter into our moment of silence. And as you prepare to release your embrace, you look at each other one more time. You look into the eyes of your younger self. And you slowly send in the thoughts and the words, may you be happy. May you feel safe. May you feel free. Feeling all of the love that extends between you. May you be happy. May you feel safe. And may you feel free. And as you return to this present moment, you know that you can go back to that moment at any time. Back to that younger self. That part of you that perhaps needs to hear those words. It needs to feel that love. And we just take this moment to just breathe. Just allowing it to be. Allowing it to be in truth. And so it is. Namaste. I think Joe just said good morning to everybody too. That's what it sounded like anyway. Some sound came through the mic, but anyway. So thanks for that, Joe. But anyway. I also want to extend a thank you to everybody who has provided special music for us during the course of the time we've been shut down, because you all have helped keep us going. And I know Pete has appreciated it, because I don't know if Pete wants to sing every single Sunday, although he does a really good job. But thank you all for all of the wonderful music you have continued to provide us. And I look forward to hearing a lot of it in person too. So anyway. But again, good morning and happy Palm Sunday. I can't believe it's already almost Easter. I mean, gosh, we're almost, 4 months into 2021 already. And today, obviously, and I've mentioned this several times before over the past couple of weeks, but I'm really looking forward to next week when we open our doors. I mean, I'm going to be really happy to see some of you again, because for some, gosh, it's been a year, probably more, since I've seen you. So I'm really happy and excited about that. And especially, for those of you who feel comfortable coming back. But again, we're going to continue to live stream, so come back just as you feel comfortable. But today is week 6, and this is the final week of our book study of Ralph de la Rosa's Don't Tell Me to Relax. And I feel it's a good ending with Easter and summer all beginning to approach. But today's talk title is Intentional Living, because as we approach Easter, summer, the end of this book study, and hopefully the ending of this pandemic, we can hopefully all just really remember to just pause and to live our lives very intentionally. Living our lives in the ways in which we choose to live, not the way someone else thinks that we should live our lives, the way we choose to live, the way we choose for ourselves. So I mentioned Palm Sunday just a little while ago, and let's talk about that a little bit. Now, I don't really have much knowledge of it beyond what I've read in books, because the church I grew up in, we really didn't even talk about Palm Sunday. We didn't celebrate it. We really didn't even mention it. We had Easter, and that was about it. So it may have different meaning depending on how and where you grew up and even your previous church experience. But Palm Sunday is the beginning of Holy Week. Now, it's the day that Jesus was said to ride into Jerusalem on a donkey. And as he did so, the crowds began to gather, and they laid palm branches and cloaks down across the road. And they did this for Jesus because they wanted to give him what was seen at that time as royal treatment. Now, at this point, Jesus, he was something of a local celebrity. His teachings and the works he had done, they had started to spread. So the royal treatment was very fitting for someone of his reputation at the time. So I want to talk about Palm Sunday for a moment, and I want to do so in a metaphysical sense. So according to the Metaphysical Dictionary by Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore, the word Jerusalem means habitation of peace. It's that spiritual peace that is not something we strive for. It's not something that's outside of ourselves, but something that is very much a part of who we all are. So today I want to try to have a little bit of creativity and fun with this talk, because as I mentioned before, today is the last Sunday of our book study, so I figured we could take some of the last teachings in the book and apply them to Palm Sunday. Now, chapter 13 in our book is, of course, one of the very last that we're going to discuss, but it's titled, Called Out or Called In, Moving from Habitual to Intentional. And he starts with a quote from scientist Robert Wall Kimmerer. To be heard, you must speak the language of the one you want to listen. So today, let's just agree to face an important fact. There are things that are going to happen that are going to sometimes threaten to make you feel anything but peaceful. That's my word of wisdom for today, so we can go home. Bye-bye. No, I'm just kidding. But these things are going to happen, and they're just going to make you think, wow, wait just a minute. I was feeling really good a moment ago, but now, where did my peace go? Where'd that peaceful feeling just go? Well, the good news is that it didn't go anywhere. So let's just all breathe for a moment. That peaceful feeling didn't go anywhere, or that peace didn't go anywhere. It's still there. There's just probably a little bit of a disconnect, but it can be reconnected. We just have to be ready and willing to not only make our own trek to Jerusalem. I mean, we can make our trek to Jerusalem, but we also have to be willing to cross into the city, into the gates of Jerusalem, as Jesus did, into that habitation of peace. But let's face it, let's talk about Jesus for just a moment, because, he likely experienced a lot of events in his life that threatened his peace, right? He had people accusing him of being a fraud. He had periods of these really long fasts where he wasn't eating or drinking anything. He was probably getting a little hungry at the time, I would say. He was trekking through the hot desert. He was riding on the back of a donkey that was probably a little bit small for a grown man. And I would imagine felt very uncomfortable. And I don't know about you, but those things just really don't sound that enjoyable to me. I'm sure there were times where Jesus is like, you know what? Why don't I just throw in the towel and I'll just go and relax at the next oasis I come to. So we each have our own Jerusalem that resides within us. That habitation of peace within. We just have to be willing to enter into that habitation. Traveling there is one thing. We just have to enter into it. Now, another thing that Palm Sunday represents is our preparation for the crucifixion. And what does that mean here at Unity? Well, one of the things we must be willing to shed as we travel into Jerusalem is our ego, right? Because shedding our ego helps that Christ consciousness within us to prevail. So let's just say you're out driving your car one day. Let's just go into this scenario here. You're out driving your car. It's a nice sunny day here in Madison or wherever you are, and you just gotten yourself a brand new convertible. For me, it wouldn't be brand new. It'd be a 1965 Mustang convertible, but hey, it would be new to me, right? But anyway, hey, you got yourself a new motorcycle for you motorcycle folks out there. You feel the sun on your skin, and you just know that there is absolutely nothing out there that's going to disturb your peace. When suddenly somebody does the inevitable and they cut you off in traffic. And you beep your horn to let this person know that they cut you off, and suddenly this person is beeping their horn back, and they're shooting you gestures that their mother would cringe in seeing. And you're thinking, well, wait a second, you're the one that cut me off. Why are you acting like that? You cut me off. Those peaceful feelings you had a moment ago, they are probably nowhere to be found at this moment, right? Ego is sitting there also telling you that this person has some nerve, and that you really need to let them know that they have that nerve with gestures of your own, okay? And I would not recommend doing that. I'm not telling you to go do that. That's the way you feel, right? But our author mentioned the power of pause in earlier chapters in the book. And this is the moment where we take advantage of the power of pause. We pause. No matter what we feel like doing at that moment, we pause and we take a breath. It may not be because you want to pause. You may want to do everything but pause. But you pause. And you pause because we know that to respond to this situation, isn't going to lead anywhere that's likely going to be good. We respond, and I guarantee that peace is going to go right out the door with it, isn't it? For you, for that other driver, and for all the drivers around you that are witnessing this unfold. Ego wants to be right, but does it really matter at the end of the day? Now, our author mentions this in times like this experience. He says to consider the experience as education. Go from a place of life is happening to me to a place of life is happening for me. So maybe this opportunity can be used to help me to keep my peace in future similar situations. I'm probably going to get cut off in traffic again, right? Perhaps even when I feel tested from somebody that's close to me, a family member, a friend, somebody out there that I perceive as different from myself. Maybe just using this moment as a teaching moment. Maybe that could prevent us from responding in a way that we wish we hadn't at some future point. Another thing our author says is this: remember that the experience you're having is one of neutral value. It's not good or bad. Your interpretation of it is everything. This one can feel a little bit tricky to navigate sometimes, can it? For instance, I love to hike. I think it's relaxing. I like to get out and hike. I love the smells of nature, the crunch of the gravel underneath my feet. I love to hear the sounds of the birds and the animals. And some of you may hear me say that I like to hike and be like, what? He likes to hike? How could he like to hike? The bugs, the heat, the wild animals. A wild animal could jump out of nowhere and eat me for lunch. Well, I'm not right and you're not wrong, and vice versa. Maybe the experience isn't good or bad at all. Maybe in reality we're both right. Why? Because it's our very own interpretation of the experience of hiking, isn't it? Ego wants to label things as good or bad. Always. This is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. And we've talked about ego here before, so it's not really a new term if you've been around Unity any length of time. But it's not always necessarily a bad thing. Part of ego's job is to protect us. And that's what it's doing. It's helping us to decipher what's good and bad for us. And this is one of the ways that it helps to protect us. But of course, we know that not everything is always so black and white, right? Some things aren't necessarily good or bad. They just are. Sometimes things are just neutral and in a place that's left open to our interpretation. Our internal beliefs also play a part into how and why we interpret things the way that we do. I was raised in a family that liked to hike and camp. And as a result, I have some really good memories of those moments. Maybe you had a hiking experience where you were trapped out in a thunderstorm or knew somebody who was attacked by a bear. Knowing that our interpretations are often based on our internal belief systems and experiences. When we can see that, when we can understand that, we're able to move on past the ego. And when we do, we're preparing for the crucifixion, riding just a little bit further into Jerusalem, preparing ourselves to rise into our Christ nature. Another thing I mentioned earlier about Palm Sunday is, it goes into the name of it, is the palm branches, right? Here at Unity, we take these biblical stories and we think about what these stories and parables mean for us in a metaphysical sense. And we've talked about Jerusalem and what it means. What about the palm branches? What is it that they mean in a metaphysical sense? Now, palm branches are a symbol for victory, triumph, and peace. And in Charles Fillmore's Revealing Word, he describes the palm tree as a metaphysical symbol of one's realization of unlimited strength in the physical realm. Now, many things in this book, I think probably the entire book, is really about what it all boils down to, which is really just keeping our peace, right? I mean, the name of it is Don't Tell Me to Relax. What usually happens when we are in a relaxed state? We tend to feel really peaceful, don't we? In that place, that habitation of peace, that Jerusalem is a pretty good place to be, isn't it? We can also know that when we allow ourselves to reside in that place, in that peaceful place, that we can also prepare for and actually begin to crucify the ego. Something that can prevent us from remaining in that place of peace. Again, it always goes back to if we allow it to. Our ultimate goal is really much like that of Jesus when he was fully identified with the Christ. The Christ nature and consciousness that is just like it was, it is just a part of us the same as it was of Jesus. And moving into that habitation of peace is a great place to begin to prepare for that ascension into our Christ consciousness. So back to those palm leaves for a moment. The symbology for the realization of our unlimited strength. All of the things we've talked about in this book for the past 6 weeks. Having the power to say no. Loving ourselves. Shifting the inner dialogue. And all of those other things that we talked about that may seem difficult or sometimes even impossible. We've got all of the unlimited strength within that we need to help us to accomplish these things. I think this book mentions some really great things for us to remain in that habitation of peace. And to circle back around to the fact that we are this unlimited strength that those palm branches represent. Remember when our author mentioned earlier in the book, he mentioned to pause, he mentioned to unblend, to get curious, and to shift the inner dialogue. We pause because it allows us a minute to return to the breath. It allows us a minute to get to the present and to allow any emotions we may be feeling at that moment to begin to subside a little bit. We unblend because it allows us to step back a moment and to see the entire picture. Maybe seeing that entire picture is coming to the realization that the ways in which we see the world are through our own perception. Regardless, we unblend to allow ourselves to determine this and what it means for ourselves. We get curious. And when we get curious, we ask ourselves questions. What is this experience telling me in the moment? Why am I feeling the way that I am feeling? And we shift the inner dialogue. Maybe we've been too critical or too harsh on ourselves. Maybe we've carried blame for far too long. Maybe we've always felt the need to label every experience as good or bad. When in reality, maybe the experience just is. Just something neutral. Something that we don't need to label as good or as bad. We shift a dialogue that has perhaps weighed us down for far too long. So today I invite you to think about your own trip into Jerusalem. Do you dare cross the gates? Do you dare actually enter it? What does it look like to you? What does it mean to you? How does it make you feel? What do you choose to be free from? What do you seek? Is it peace? Freedom to be allowed to tell yourself to relax? Why don't we reach down and pick up one of those palm leaves today? Let's take it within and let's stay true to that unlimited strength that we possess and that unlimited strength that we are. Let's reach down and pick up the palm branch today. Namaste. And now we've got more special music from Catherine and Jet.